Hey everyone, welcome to the Game Design Perspective. I am Mao.
I am Santi.
And we're gonna be talking about a very interesting topic, which is from Greybox to set dressing and why level design has nothing to do with art. Before we begin, of course, quick disclaimer. This episode or none of the previous episodes represent the views from anyone in the industry nor the studios we have worked on or are working at the moment. These are purely our opinions and based on our experience. And yeah,
Sounds good.
with that out of the way, let's begin. So first, everyone has some sort of idea of what's a level, right? But defining it is very weird. Like, it's hard to just define a level, you know?
A lot of games nowadays have changed a lot their perspective of what a level is, especially with the rise of open worlds. But the role is still called level designer.
Yeah, there's a definition that I love about what a level is, and this comes from Dan Taylor. This guy has worked on Tomb Raider, Deus Ex. This guy is Old Testament. He knows what he's doing.
Old Testament,
right? He says books let you imagine extraordinary things. Films let us see extraordinary things. Games let us do extraordinary things. Level design is where we do it.
Yeah.
Right? To me, level design is where the fun happens. Right?
Depends on the game. But any game that has any kind of map level world that it's generally the level designer's job to grab all the mechanics and put them together into something that is fun.
Yeah. So remember, this is not a level design class, right? I will not be talking about level design principles or giving feedback on any game or whatever. Basically, what we're going to be doing here is talk about the pipeline, so that guys out there, like everyone out there, can understand pretty much what level design is, because I've seen a lot of confusion about what it is. Not that people are confused, but they often confuse it with what set dressing is. Right?
Yeah. Ubisoft tends to have a clear distinction between what a level designer is, a mission designer is, and a level artist.
Yeah, and all of those lines, depending on the studio, can get a little blurry, right? Very often, the level designer is also a mission designer. And very often, the level designer taps into the level artist.
Yeah, Ubisoft has like this system that in open world designers, like level designers, they call them. So they have level designers, and they divided level designers based on seniority into mission designers and open world designers. So the open world designers are focused on populating with hunts or things that require not that much scripting, which I'm guessing you're going to talk about later. But mission designers is when it's less about layouts and it's more about heavily scripting.
Exactly. No, and when I was actually working on my Ubisoft Next entry, they only called it like mission design back then, if I remember correctly. But it was level and mission design. You had to do both in a very small amount of time, actually, like 3 months or so, to do a document, a very large document, created the level and mission. It was a lot. I mean, they gave us a lot to work with. They gave us pretty much the mechanics to work with.
Yeah.
But implementing it was a lot.
So it's a little bit confusing, and I'm not gonna to be honest, we didn't have that much time as well to work in missions, at least in Far Cry, and I think every designer has at least 4 missions they have to work on, and they change them. They change their names. I think we can talk about this a little bit later, but like,
Sure.
what is the scope of a level of a mission in the future? But it's very clearly defined in Ubisoft. I'll tell you the
Yeah.
scoping criteria if you guys want to. But yeah, yeah, I understand. This is not a class. Teaching level design is an infinite subject. Uh,
Yeah. No, it's more about pipelines. So to clear the confusion between set dressing and design, right? Because I've seen a lot of that.
I think the way I see it is that is the difference between interior designer and an architect,
No, for
right?
sure. Yeah.
To me, that comparison seems to be quite clear. I to
Yeah.
me,
I have like a pretty good example when it comes that's like when it's time to talk about it, of what usually level designer is. But actually, yeah, the architect and the interior designer is actually a great comparison.
yep.
um yeah, I mean, level design is not about placing things in the editor and just calling it level design. Yes, I did it. Yes,
I wish
it's
it
done
was.
right.
No,
No, I
usually
wish it was.
placing things in the editor usually makes editors really, 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 really slow.
Yeah,
Even on
no,
Real, Unity, on every other editor I worked,
for
I worked
sure.
in Snowdrop from Ubisoft, 4A Engine, Dunia. Like, they all become really, really, really slow, because usually when if you place something in the editor is running 1,000 things that the game doesn't have to run normally. So when you
Yeah,
place things in the editor, usually it makes it significantly slower. So you try to avoid it as much as possible.
yeah. It's like when you're running something in the editor, it's like having the ingredients for a pizza, and the like it's like eating the pizza while the oven is cooking it,
Yeah.
right? And when you have the game shipped, it's like having the pizza properly delivered to your place so you can eat it, and you eat it great. It's like,
So,
so yeah, it's not very cool running things in the editor.
no, no,
It's
no. It's
not
usually really slow.
classy or anything.
It's
But
really
yeah,
slow.
it's not about placing just things there and just calling it level design, right? Because like, remember, all of you did, like, whoever has studied any sort of design, you know that design is a process, and level design is no different, right? Level design follows a process. It can vary a little bit from place to place and genre to genre as well. But yeah, I guess with that out of the way, we can. Oh, you're gonna say something?
No, yeah. I wanted to start that. Like, every studio has a different pipeline for level design. To be
Yeah.
honest, it depends also about the size of the studio. Like, if you compare my experience, I did level design in Metro and I did level design in Ubisoft, and the approach was completely and utterly different. So I think we can talk about it later, like the
Yeah.
differences. I have a little surprise for this podcast today at the end.
That sounds
Uh,
cool.
yeah, I have a surprise for you.
I'm hyped for that. Yeah. All right. With that out of the way, we can start talking about possibly the first step. Remember, a lot of these steps, like, maybe it's not the first step in one studio, maybe it's the second, right? So I'm trying to sort of standardize it a little bit to make it easier to talk about it in the episode.
Yep.
Right. But it comes sandboxing. Not every studio does this, right? But sandboxing is usually what I've seen a lot of people out there in like call level design, right? Where they place things in the editor and just find the fun, right? It's all about this. It's just finding the fun. It's experimenting with your mechanics and what works and what doesn't. Uh, a lot, like, I've seen a lot of people who teach how to create a level in Unity, for example, in a technical way, like, oh yeah, level design and call and place things real quick, and it's more a sandboxing, and sandboxing is just a step of the way in level design, a step of the pipeline, right?
Yeah.
For example, in a 3D platformer, right? Like, say for example, Mario 3D World, right? We know Mario 3D World has a ton of mechanics. Each level has a different mechanic, but all of those mechanics were tested before, right? Probably.
Yeah.
I don't work at Nintendo.
Hopefully.
Yeah, no, but all of those mechanics were tested before, and they were experimented on. They experimented what works, what's fun,
Yeah.
right? What is pretty cool. Actually, no, actually, I think the double cherry mechanic. I don't know if you played Super Mario 3D World.
Yeah,
There's
I
this
did.
mechanic. Yeah, there's this power up that where you get it that it's called the double cherry. The character you're playing as, let's say Mario, like it clones itself, and then you're controlling two characters at the same time. That literally, like, it was found like by experimenting and by sandboxing, right? Yes, someone placed two Mario character controllers there, but they started experimenting with it, and they found the fun, and in the end they were like, leave it there. So that's part of the sandboxing.
I have there's a metaphor. I was talking with a sculptor, like a rock kind of marble sculpture, and she was telling me that how do you make mistakes, right? And like, how do you deal with mistakes while you're sculpting in rock, because you cannot bring them back, right?
Yeah.
And she says like, well, the idea is that the idea is that you technically let the rock talk to you and you find the shapes. So you have a general idea of what you want, but as the rock breaks, you start finding the shapes, like that you let the rock speak to you. And I think with like sandboxing or greyboxing in some studios, no, you have it as different. You have it as different. Yeah. Sandboxing is kind of similar. It's a similar thing. You start placing things and it's very fluid, and you're trying to find like fun adventure stuff like that. A lot of studios do this with something called terrain tools. I don't know if you work with those, Mao. I work with those on Far Cry, and it's kind of like play with clay, literally, because the way that works is that you have like a plane. Let's say you have the water, and you have a plane that is the water, and then below that you have a plane that is terrain. And what you do is like a hand, literally like a hand, you pull it out of the ground, like you pull it out of the water, and that's how you create islands and terrains and mountains and stuff like that. So it's kind of like playing like clay. So it's kind of just finding pathways and caves, and it's very fluid, and ideas come. I wish they let you do that more at Ubisoft. I think there would be a lot of like very fun missions, but they don't.
Yeah, no, this is pretty much where the creativity kicks in, right? Like after this, level design can yes, it has creativity involved, but it starts becoming like a little bit more okay, how can we make this fun for the player? And that's where the principles for you start kicking in, right?
Little fact, I've never done sandboxing professionally. I've never had the chance.
That's fun. No, I did right now. Like on the project I'm working on, I mean, we're not on that stage of production anymore, but I did, and it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool sandboxing. But yeah, not every studio does this. A lot of studios is like, we need this, we need the level, working in it. And no, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Some studios have it. I'm not gonna say every single studio has it. And it's a privilege, to be honest, to be able to sandbox.
Yeah, it is.
It is very fun. It is very fun. And yeah, no, I don't work with terrain tools right now.
Yeah, your game doesn't have that, right?
No. Like when everyone can see it, you'll see that no, terrain tools are not involved.
Yeah.
It's not that kind of game. But yeah, it's a privilege. It's pretty fun.
Never done it.
Sandbox. Yeah.
Almost 10 years of experience, never had the chance to do sandboxing.
That's sad.
Never had the chance.
I hope one day you'll be able to do it.
I guess at this point I shift gears into game design, right? I'm no longer do level design. I changed career paths after a little bit, not career paths, but I changed my branch of design into
Of course.
systems and game design.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, a level designer needs to know about game design, and a game designer needs to know about level design. Like, they need to communicate often, right? So they
yeah,
blend a lot. They blend a lot. So it's not completely changing careers. It's just maybe
I do
shifting
very,
focus.
yeah, exactly. So I think the difference here is that I changed my focus to like the moment to moment gameplay, as I call it, the very short loops, as we've discussed in other episodes, but the very, very short loops, right? Like the moment to moment gameplay, the systems, like the tactics of games, and less about the experience
Yeah.
in a space.
Yeah.
Uh, they both affect each other. Like systems can break, especially camera systems can break because of level design, and at the same time level design can avoid full systems and ignore them, right? So
Yeah.
they need to communicate, you're right, but I just don't touch like
Yeah.
the level design tools in Unreal that we work in Unreal. I work in Unreal right now, but I I haven't touched in like 2 years level
Yeah.
design tools. It's a
Yeah.
bit, I miss it a little bit.
It's fun. It's fun. I mean, especially sandboxing is pretty fun, right? Because when you finally find your fun, it's like, what?
You
You
know,
have this.
good for you, man. Like I've never done it. Good for you. Like it's
You
not
find
like
this
I'm.
eureka moment.
Yeah, it's not like I'm not jealous about that experience. Like, never had
All
a
right.
chance. Never had a chance.
All right. So after you found your fun, right? Of course, not every single studio has this. Uh, then you start like formally working on the level, and then you start your level design documents. And yes, levels have documents too.
Yeah,
Every single design aspect in a game has documents, right? I don't like you. It's not usual that you don't create a document. Uh, and I mean, I'm talking about it right now, where actually right now I don't make documents for the level, right? In the studio I'm working on, it's
they're
very
hard to
weird, but
update.
it's hard to update, and the genre, it's hard to pull it off, right? But these level design documents actually help you a lot, right, in creating the context for the level, if the game is about that, right? Of course, Mario, like, yes, you can have a level that is on top of a cake, but you're not going to be creating a full-on story for a cake and for
Yeah.
Mario, right? But usually, like, you have a lot of you talk about a lot about the context, and you define the mechanics you're going to be talking about it in it you're going to be using in the level. You create your map layout. If you're creating a mission, then you like walk through the mission there. You design it too, if you're the level and mission designer, right?
This is where Ubisoft starts
Yeah.
their level design process. At least my experience in the like my experience was this is where they start the process for like missions,
Yeah.
and it is you have to write the document, and I think the hardest part is transferring, especially if you're working on a 3D like game, is really
Yeah.
hard to transfer a 3D environment into a 2D layout. Eh,
Yes.
and the way they do that, they happen to make it different in every studio. The
Hmm.
the like
Yeah.
the layout drawings, because you have to do drawings in your level design documents many times. Like, how do you draw stairs from one studio to
Yeah.
another? Tends to be different.
Yeah.
Tends to be quite different.
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah. Yeah. No, for Ubisoft Next, they gave us like a set of not tools, but a set of icons, right? So you use this because this is our standard, and you use this for
yeah,
your icons, right? On your map, and it was like, all right, cool. But
I'm
yeah,
glad they
it
gave
varies a
you
lot.
that. They didn't give me that.
Oh
I didn't have
well.
that. I didn't have that. I didn't have
You
that.
could have. You,
And then you have to present. This is we go back to like the social aspect. We talked about this game designers and level designers.
yeah.
The social aspect. You have to present these documents in front of leadership. So you have a bunch of directors, producers, executive producers, project managers, artists in a room, and you have to be in front of them, speaking in public and talking about what is your idea, what is like, what do you want to do, and what like, and explain your document there and answer questions. So this is kind of the process at Ubisoft. Like it has to be the process at Ubisoft because teams tend to be bigger and the size of their games
Yeah.
and their processes are very standardized. So it has to be this way. I think Far Cry 6
No,
was 850 people, if I
that's a
remember correctly.
ton.
It's
That's a ton.
it's enormous.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're not like making a level design at the moment, level designers know how to do it. And even if they don't have to deliver a level design, I'm pretty sure most level designers actually start at least taking notes.
Yeah.
Right, for themselves. Even if they don't have to deliver or present it, they have to do it. Right now, I don't have to deliver level design documents. I have done it. I've done a ton of level design documents, right? But right now I don't. But I still like I could make a level design document based on my notebook that I have right here, right? Just with how many things I needed to write, right? So yeah, level design documents is a huge part of the process, right? It's where you literally start designing for the player, right? You were having fun on the sandboxing, now you're designing for the player.
This is when you get yourself out of the question and you're designing for someone else. You have
Yes.
the solid idea, you found the idea, at least the concept of what your level is going to be, and then you execute. Many studios, especially in open world games, their documents tend to not have layouts that much and more beats.
Yeah.
Beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, or objective 1, objective 2, objective 3, and they kind of explain, oh, like this is an encounter, and they do it like mission beats, combat beat, exploration beat, investigation beat. If you grab The Witcher, I think The Witcher, like, you can see it. The Witcher, like, they design their world, and then the mission and the quest designers have to populate it with like stories and missions for the player to do. These documents don't have layouts. Not every like document I found needs a layout, but they still are under the same role of level design.
Yeah, I mean every genre like has very different needs when it comes to this part. So that's why I'm saying like at the very beginning I said that this is not a standardized, right? I'm trying to standardize it so that it's easier to explain, but this is not a standardized. Like every studio follows a different pipeline, and even the level design documents are very different, like depending on the studio, right? And what the needs are for that.
I think this is why I think theory and understanding theory is so important for like designers, because nothing in the game industry isn't standardized from studio to studio. I have to change drastically, and I'm gonna talk about that on the next point. Because it is quite funny, but Mao, you can like if
that's fine. No, that's fine, right? Like not being standardized, it makes it fun, interesting.
When it's really interesting when you change from job to job into another studio, and then you're like, oh, so this is how they do things here, and it's completely different of what you do. The technology you use, like when 3D artist moves from studio to studio, you can find 3ds Max, Maya to be a standard across the industry, but game engines and design work tends to be completely unique from studio to studio. Even when they use the same engine, when they use Unreal, the tools and the organization of the project for designers to adapt to is completely different. Completely.
a lot of studios actually make a customized version of Unreal
Yeah.
for themselves, right? And often you have to compile it before you can actually work on it. So you don't get into the Unreal launcher and just open your project. You actually need to compile your like the customized version of Unreal, then work on
It's
it.
it's all over the place. There's even when you hear studios like, oh, they switched to Unreal, like, okay, you switched to Unreal. What are you doing with it? And then you go in and it's like, yeah, I know Unreal. And then like, oh, cool, you're hired. Then you go in and it's like you know nothing. It's like,
Is this even Unreal?
yeah,
It turns out maybe the back end, most of it is.
it's
It's weird. It's weird. Like tools, and yeah, all of them are very different. Pipelines are very different from studio to studio. But
yeah,
yeah,
oh my god.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, like if you're trying to get into level design, try creating a map of a 3D place before you start working on it. And you're gonna see that it's very hard, but when you land it, when you actually nail it, the level becomes so much clearer, right? And iterating on it is way clearer because you understand it perfectly. Now, you have your level design document, which most studios, or I think most studios actually use. Then you start getting into the gray boxing. This is where, like, okay, fun kind of comes back, right?
Yeah, it's kind of.
You start building your level again, right? You already have a clear idea, and you're starting to build the level up in many cases with terrain tools.
Mm-hmm.
In some other cases we use, and this is why it's called gray boxing. Well, it can be called gray boxing, white boxing. Like even this has a ton of names.
This is where 4A games starts working in levels.
Wow.
This is where they start. So Ubisoft starts on the level design document. Well, 4A games starts on the gray boxing.
Yeah. And, but like that, yeah, that just creates a lot of frustration for you as designer, because you still need what a level design document uses, right? So at least you do it in your mind. You need some sort of that.
No. To be honest, a lot of like a lot of the levels and a lot of the things like in 4A games started gray boxing, and you cannot even call it gray boxing because we use assets from previous games as like stand-ins. And I have a story here. It's actually the Metro Exodus has a level called Yamantau, which takes place in a bunker. The bunker is actually a replica from, like, is the model of the bunker from Last Light from the previous game. So we just grabbed that and it's like, okay, we're gonna make a level in this because we need a level inside a bunker. And instead of like doing like sandboxing or gray boxing, we said like, we have this model, boom, use it. And this is why like this is why like the level, this is what dictated the level. This is what dictated the level. And it was like incredibly like we had to mix gray boxing with the next point that you're going to talk about, but like this is where Metro Exodus started their level design and their mission design process in gray boxing. There was no documentation.
You see, guys, like it's not standardized. Right now, I don't create level design documents. I go from sandboxing, which is pretty much a luxury, to gray boxing, right? So these are just like in an ideal world you would follow these steps, but
I think it's useful to know this because people that want to enter the game industry, this is a level design portfolio, each step that you're mentioning right now.
Yeah.
So
at least till this point. The next point is weird. It's blurry.
Super blurry.
It's gonna get very blurry. If it has been blurry up to, all the way up to this point on the process, the next one is gonna get even blurrier. and that's
Yeah.
and that's what it creates so much confusion on people who don't know about all of these pipelines, that call it, oh yeah, level design, and it's not. Right? But yeah, great boxing, like you can use terrain tools. Some studios and some games actually use them. Some other studios actually use some sort of let's call it Lego blocks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Usually they are gray or white. That's where the term gray boxing or white boxing comes from, usually, right? Editors even give them to you in those colors, but not every studio uses those.
So, yes, this is where we mentioned before metrics, right? That
Yes.
so when the metrics are defined, the artists create these gray blocks that respect the metrics,
Yep.
and then the level designer use these gray blocks to create something that respects the metrics as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a collaboration between the designers and the artists, right? Like settling on these boxes, like what's the size of them, right? Maybe it's 4 meters by 4 meters, or you can also have half of that, 2 meters by 2 meters, and
Mhm.
those type of blocks, right? Like I have created a lot of these modular pieces because it is all about modularity. This sort of gray boxing, of course, not terrain tools, right? But this sort of gray boxing is all about modularity. So this is a conversation between designers and artists, like, hey, I need this sort of blocks, blah 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 blah, and you come into an agreement of which pieces you're going to be using, right?
Yeah.
I've created a lot of those modular kits, right? And yeah, this is actually useful for both the designer and the artist. As a designer, I do believe that sometimes limits can help you think outside of the box, right?
Yep.
I think limits are what actually drives imagination
Creativity.
and
Yep.
and creativity, but also allows you to stick to the metrics, right? Also allows every designer to stick to them.
So that the
Uh,
game works.
yeah, so the game works properly, and
Funny
you're
thing.
not. What is it?
Sorry. Funny thing. In US, in Dunia, in Far Cry, they are blue. They're like bright
Damn,
blue. They're
damn!
bright
You're
blue.
just you're just confusing people even
Yeah.
more.
Just
The-
curiosity, like they're called gray boxing or white boxing, but like at this point, the color has nothing to do with the term
no,
at
no,
all.
no, 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 no. No, at least it's somewhat of a standard that is gray boxing or white boxing. That's at least somewhat of a standard, somewhat. But yeah, like even like I've seen a lot of videos that say, "Oh, we found this test area hidden in the game code," right? That's gray boxing, and they're using, I don't know, white and green uh,
Yeah.
blocks, right? Like I've seen those for Zelda Wind Waker and Mario Sunshine, and there's a lot of videos out there for those. Yes, those areas were created to test the character's mechanics, but the way they were built, it's gray boxing, and that's literally the term, right? So yeah, you start building your level with whatever you have in mind with the level design document, ideally, right?
Yeah.
In the case of Santi, like they didn't have on Metro Exodus level design documents. I'm not working with level design documents right now. At least I can sandbox, and that's very fun. But yeah,
Yeah, I think I mean it's such a I think it's also very dependent on the size of the team.
yeah,
Many times design like level designers are allowed to go into like mixed sandbox with gray boxing because the team is small and you need something quick, it just listen,
yeah,
if you're making a portfolio, at least the level design document and the gray boxing are like your best
yeah,
friends.
yeah. No one's gonna see the sandboxing. That's for you. That's where you found your fun. That's for
Just
you, the designer, to find it, and
to
that's it.
flow.
Not every studio has it. It's a luxury. Remember that. But the level design document and greyboxing, these are the pieces that are going to be asked on your level design portfolio.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So every studio gray boxes differently. Every studio level creates the different level design documents. Not every studio sandboxes, so it's starting to get even blurrier by right now, and it's gonna get blurry at this point. We're gonna be talking about the next step of gray boxing, and it's set dressing, right? Yeah, this is like the name pretty much says it. You're dressing the level, you're making it look beautiful and cool.
Yeah, it's a term stolen from theater and movies, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it pretty much says it, but it gets blurry here because whoever set dresses the level, like it can be the level designer after the gray box, or it can be a level artist or environment artist after the gray box, right? And yes, some of the set dressing has to do with level design. Sometimes has to do with level design, right? But not every time, right? As we said, when you apply for a level designer job, they are going to ask you for the gray box. It's not like I've never seen that they ask you for a set dress level or a half set dress level. Like I haven't seen that, to be honest.
So this is, again, as you say, this is where it gets blurry, right? Because my job at Metro Exodus, I got it because of the set dressing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. It's messy. This is where it gets really messy. This is where it gets really messy.
Yes.
So I made a level in Unreal for my job at 4A Games in the test, and I happened to have 3D pack of an asylum, a horror asylum for Unreal 4. So I used that to create a metro station, like in Metro Last Light and stuff like that. The layout worked. It was linear like Metro because I didn't know about the project. So I made a Metro Last Light level, which was the test. And I programmed simple AI, simple combat encounters, simple weapons. I scripted all that, but I also set dress all the, to make it look as much as a bunker, like a metro station, like in that game, as possible.
Yeah.
And talking with people inside after I got hired, they said that I was competing against someone from Valve at some point. They mentioned, and the guy made he made a good shooter level, but it was just a shooter level. What you deliver was a metro level. So the set dressing, the atmosphere, the linear kind of stealth approach was not as level design sound as the Valve guy, but it was a better metro level. So he's like, hey, this guy understands metro better than the Valve guy, and I needed the set dressing for that. So my advice with, if you're making a portfolio and want to take set dressing into consideration, try to understand the pedigree of the studio. See, because if you're trying to apply for out of just top of my head, Insomniac, or you're gonna apply to for Ratchet and Clank. Well, how much does the set dressing matter, and how much does the combat arena matters, right? So in that case, you adapt your test and your portfolio to that type of gameplay. But if you're gonna go for a horror game, that might be worth it to invest in a little bit of a 3D package, so that it kind of helps with the atmosphere and showcase what you can do there. Set dressing also tends to, I think you're working this way as well. They tend to separate. They tend, a lot of studios, Ubisoft tends to, 4A does not do this, but Ubisoft does that. They separate level art and level design, and the level designer and the level artist, they need to work together to deliver the final product. I think you work
That's
that way,
how it
right?
works. Yes, I'm working that way right now. Yeah. So yeah, like you see where the line is getting blurry, right? Sometimes level design does not reach this point. You just talk to the level artist on what you need or what to respect or whatever
Yeah.
from your level, right? And it's also gets blurry because sometimes as a designer you're able to test and iterate on your gray box, but sometimes due to milestones and not being there being enough time, they have to set dress it, and then you test the set dress level, and then you have to iterate on the set dress level, which
Mhm.
makes it harder, right? Because set dress already has a lot of
More
different pieces,
assets. Yeah.
right? The reason why we usually build in Greybox is because you only have the level, like the core of the level there, and if you need to move something, it's way easier to grab a lot of things and just get rid of them or move them or change them than having, I don't know, the floor with a lot of cans and cables there, right? It starts
Uh
getting way harder.
yeah, it gets complicated here because
Yeah.
in the case set dressing not just affects that. Another thing that set dressing also has to do with the lighting, and
Yes.
light sources and set dressing changes the colors and changes the negative space, changes the it changes a lot of the image that you had when you were gray boxing, and it
Yeah.
might change your perspective on how you guide the player.
Yeah.
Again, another reason why the yellow stripes are so prevalent in AAA games is because the amount of assets and set dressing that is required for those games to look the part is immense.
Yeah.
And they need a consistent element to guide the player, therefore the yellow stripes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh, this is complicated, and then at the same time it also depends what are the capacities of your level artists. There are studios that the level artist is a 3D modeler and a level artist, so they will create models for like levels, missions, etc.,
Yeah.
and they would like bring them into the engine, which that means that their expertise is in Maya, their expertise is in 3ds Max or whatever software, the 3D software they're using, which means that it falls on the level designer to script certain little details that are part of the set dressing.
Yeah.
I haven't like I think we can reveal my surprise here if you
If
want,
you,
because
yes,
I
yes,
think it
go
would
ahead.
be I think it would be the perfect moment, because
Yeah, go ahead.
while I was working at 4A Games, I did from nothing to gray boxing to set dressing to lighting to deliverable, all the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so from
Yeah.
nothing to deliverable all the way, which is
In
not the
Metro
healthiest
Exodus, I
thing.
kind of in Metro Exodus, it's easier to see why you were also needed assist in set dress, right? Because set dress takes a huge part on what the level is, right? It's a
So
huge
yeah,
part on telling the story of Metro and everything.
exactly right. So let's go really quick through one aspect. So I guess we can remove the banner for now.
There is it's there.
Yeah,
It's
for
loud.
people that are
Yeah.
watching the video, there was a banner, but if you're listening, so there is a video here explaining like a section. If you're just listening, I'll go to narrate as much as I can. This is a section in Metro Exodus 2 Kernels. This is the last thing I did while I was working at 4A Games. This this section of the game is just addressing. There's no layout because the player has no control. They can look around, right? They can look around, but they cannot.
Yeah.
They have no way of moving the character, which means this was exclusively set dressing. But the reason why sometimes level designers need to help with the set dressing is because of the amount of scripting that set dressing can take. So let's
Yeah.
see here. Let's try it out. Is it too loud?
I can hear. I can't hear anything.
I think it was too loud. Let me lower the volume really quick. Sorry, guys.
No worries.
let me just lower the volume a little bit.
Yeah. Do it. No worries.
So that,
So yeah, this is like, you see why I'm getting into this. It's blurry, and the reason uh why there's a lot of confusion. For example, I saw this game called Fantasia, right? This RPG, and a lot of people were saying, dude, the level design is amazing, the level design is amazing, when in reality they were talking about the set dressing, because the game was made in dioramas. Yes, probably the level design was done in those dioramas. I don't know how they tackled level design there, but people are actually referring to the set dressing like, oh, this looks amazing, it's amazing that it's a diorama. That's specifically talking about the set dressing. And when talking, like getting a little bit out of the pipeline, when talking about the level design, you're talking more about uh the gameplay,
layouts,
layouts,
pacing,
mechanics that
flow.
you're using. Yes, exactly, all of that. So you're not talking about level design, you're talking more about set dressing. Oh, if it looks beautiful, do those dioramas. That's specifically set dressing.
That is not level design. That is true.
Yeah.
So this is a section that is just set dressing. This is just a work I did for set dressing. So let's go through it. So let's stop here. So you can see there is like a bunch of things over here, you know, little bags and fire and everything. But for example, there is an animation of here, you know, of a crane moving. You see that?
I see it.
You
Yes.
see that? And then, so if I erase this, so right, and then there is, you know, that needed to be scripted because we didn't have an animation for that.
Yeah.
I needed to grab the vector, the forward vector of an object, attach things to it, and then just rotate it mathematically, frame by frame, you know?
Yeah.
And then there is another guy here that is walking across this bridge. I needed to program the AI to go like play an animation on the top part of the body. You'll be able to see something similar a little bit ahead. Place like, and then script this guy moving across the bridge, you know? So
yeah.
And then there's a guy here that is also walking with a box in his hands. I needed to attach the box to a bone through scripting, change the animation they're playing on the upper body, and then tell the AI to move to a certain point when the player is on a certain volume. So all this is set dressing. I'm not changing the gameplay layout or anything. Right? There it is.
Yeah.
So now, if you look here, there is a light source here, a light source here, a light source here, there's a light source here, you know, and then there is your card, right? But what people don't know is that all the darkness, like for example, if you see here, like you see this darkness, or you see these things over here, you know, all those objects, they actually have little lights that don't simulate shadows, but they change the color of the object to make it look like the light is reflecting.
Yes, simulating light, literally.
Yes, and the thing is, NVIDIA talked about this with like RTX and everything. The reality is that we still have to do that most probably, even though they said developers can just turn the switch. Well, guess what? RTX is super expensive, which means that for lower rigs and several consoles and other stuff, we still have to do this. Play lights. Imagine there's a light source here. There's a light source here, you know. There's light sources everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere, you know. If we keep going, it gets like a little bit crazy. I'm going to erase all this. For people that are like watching, there is a scene on the 2 kernel DLC that you can see in which you're going on a cart, one of those rail cars that you have to push up and down like in the cartoons.
Yeah.
You know? And this, you guys can see the video. We'll post like probably a video on the comments, on the pinned comment or on the description of the video. But you can see that there's no real darkness. You can see all
No.
around you, right? So
Yeah.
I want you to notice to the right, you're going to see an object fall and create a dust cloud, and everybody reacts to it and everything. All that had to be done in scripting. It had to be programmed to trigger. The guy didn't look, but you see this guy react?
Yes.
If you in this video, they don't look to the right, but there's like they're trying to disarm a train, and the thing falls down, and there's like a dust cloud. You know, all these had to be scripted. So there's a lot in the set dressing. In the set dressing of this section, I had to work. For example, there's a guy here, you know, working that I had to trigger based on an animation. I have to script and trigger a particle effect with a light source so that it looks like that. Let's check it out really quick. Let's see if we can see it. You see that? So there is a lot in the corner of the screen for people listening. There is like one little guy that is just kind of welding. All that has to be scripted. You saw this guy opening the... There's a guy that is pulling a lever to allow you to continue. You know, on top of the screen, there is a little guy there that is walking with a box, which is a repeated object from the previous guy that I showed you carrying a box that was already scripted. So I just repeat the guy there, you know, to just save me some time, you know?
Yeah.
You see this guy saluting? So as you're moving with the train, you have no control, but like you're in this like rail, and there's like NPCs salute you, right? So I need to take the player's position across the line and start triggering in scripting players saluting, right?
Yeah.
So just an example, you know, like just an example of how much set dressing I had to do because set dressing required a scripting.
Yeah, if you want to take a look at this video, it's gonna be the credit is gonna be on the pinned comment or the description of the video.
Yeah, so just to make sure, like, I just would like to thank the person that captured this. I use it all the time to showcase my work. It's we're gonna post on the comments
Sure. All right. But yeah, you see how that goes. Like, just set dressing is also like another topic. It's not like that's why usually you have environment artists, because it's a lot. Set dressing is also a lot.
So yeah, the video used is by MK Ice and Fire. I just want to like shout out. We're gonna put a link to his channel. The guy is huge. He has 3.5 million users, like subscribers. But he has a great like record of this scene that I worked on, and I think it's just like a great example of how level designers end up doing set dressing because it requires a scripting. Sometimes level artists understand the scripting as well, so that they focus on the set dressing exclusively. They don't do like that much 3D modeling because that's also separated. So that can happen as well. So if you are making a portfolio, my recommendation, even though set dressing is not level design, my recommendation is to have a piece of set dressed level, like a set dress level that requires scripting in the set dressing, just to showcase that aspect is also taken care of, in case that's how the studio works.
I also wanted to show a video pretty much for that explains or shows what from Greybox to set dressing, right? It literally shows pretty cool the title of the video. So I'm gonna be sharing that. Um, the video is by it's uploaded by Mark G Game Design. And yeah, just oh my god, Yuna wants to come up. All right, you can see my screen. Cool. So this is a video from Uncharted 4, the level lookout comparison. That's what's called, right? So you're seeing there this set dressing. You're seeing the last what you as a player are playing. But all of this is how the level was originally conceived, right? When it was first built. This is the Greybox, right? Now, this does not look like they were using this Lego blocks I was mentioning before. Probably, I don't know.
Depends on their engine. Depends on their
Depends
tools,
on the
to be honest.
engine, right? Like if they were, it's gonna be those little black lines you're seeing over the white blocks, which white boxing, gray boxing, right? I wouldn't know. There are a lot of ways to build gray boxing, right? But this is how the level actually started, right? All of the mechanics are there. The level is completely playable. Yes, there are missing animations, there are missing stuff, but the level is completely playable. Actually, you could play the entire level in that state, and yeah, all of the mechanics would be there. All of the action, what you're enjoying, is there, right? It's a pretty cool video because it showcases the last line of what formally would be level design, right? This gray box in here, it looks like, man, they already tested it a lot of times. This looks great. This is great done.
That is a level that has been worked on a lot already.
Yes. I can probably tell that they tested this a lot of times, right? Instead of testing on the set dressing. But man, the quality of this gray box is just amazing.
It is
amazing. And it just this video, what I like about this video is that it shows how much goes after level design. I mean, level design is already a lot, but this set dressing here too is a lot, right? So everything that you're seeing that, oh, this looks beautiful, that's pretty much set dressing.
Particle effects,
yeah,
things destroying, things moving, all that requires probably the level designer to go in and script. I don't know how Naughty Dog works.
I don't know.
They have brilliant developers though.
Brilliant, of course. But yeah, so video's over. Yep. So no. Sorry about that. So what you guys were seeing there, it's a great example of what goes on, right? Everything that is gameplay, it's done by a designer. Everything that's not gameplay, that just looks cool, that's pretty much set dressing. And I don't know how Naughty Dog works there.
My experience on Metro was that we scripted that, but we made the set dressing as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't know that there. But yeah, with that out of the way, I hope you guys like the video. I mean, I hope this clears a little bit of that confusion, right, on what set dressing and level design is. If you want to get into level design, I hope this kind of works as a pipeline. This, of course, is not talking about level design principles. This is just pipelines.
We might talk about those in the future, I guess.
We might, but this video is not about that. This video is just to showcase what
the
a level
distinction.
Goes through. Yes.
The distinction, because we see so many videos and so many people saying, wow, it's brilliant level design, it's beautiful. Let's be honest, people are not using the word beautiful to describe the great and beautiful layouts they plan, and the pacing and combat encounters they plan perfectly. They're using it to describe the art, and the art is not level design. It's another branch called level art. Depends on the studio. Sometimes the level designer will do it, sometimes they won't.
Yeah.
Therefore, they are separate skills.
Yep. Separate branch, separate skills.
I would still say the best set dresser I've ever met in the game industry is Andriy Prokhorov. the director of Metro Exodus and on the Metro franchise, he's the best dresser I ever met. That's why Metro looks the way it looks.
No, it looks amazing. Metro looks
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
No, a good set dress can, like, it can do a lot. A good set dress can pretty much sell a game by itself. If the game, if the player likes the game, it's another story, but it can sell the game.
Yeah, so set dressing was so important for Metro Exodus that a big part during development, we developed, especially the open levels, we developed doing something called frozen stories, which means that wherever you entered, the place needed to tell a story. Even if their reward for entering is very minimum, it has to have a story inside.
Yeah.
So this is what made the world of Metro so rich, is that there were ghost stories, there were like poker games going wrong, there were like people that were like hunkering down, there were like so many good, bad, sad, happy stories in the world of Metro. You just need to look around you. I think, again, that those frozen stories I wouldn't consider level design, but 4A Games is a studio that calls game designers level designers. And when I was hired as a game designer, and I did a lot of level design. So there were like a smaller studio that developed in a more fluid way, right? If you're applying for
Yeah.
like a AAA studio, like a bigger studio, usually they will have a distinction. But if you're making a portfolio, make sure to add a set dressing piece for it, because even if it's not something you're gonna do, it's gonna show that you can communicate and you can understand the requirements of level art and the requirements to bring a level from 0 to delivery.
Yeah, as a designer, the more skills you know from other branches, the more programming you know, the more 3D art you know. It just communicates that you understand and that you can communicate. And as a designer, one of the most important skills you can have is communication. Communication is everything. It's everything in a team, right? And you, the designer, is like are one of the most vocal jobs out there in the game industry.
Yes, actually, it's really funny. The more senior you are, the less you touch the engine, the less you touch the you get your hands dirty. A lot of game designers and level designers don't like this, which is why the title of principal designer was created relatively recently, actually. So usually the progression of the designers, we can talk more about this later, but it would be like junior, then designer, then senior designer, senior designer, lead designer, right? And that's the progression. That would be the progression.
Yeah.
But the lead game designers tend to not work a lot in the game itself, to tend to work a lot on the design, documentation, and peer reviews, like, and feedback for the rest of designers to hold the vision of the game. And a lot of designers don't like that, and they want to continue working in engine, but they also would like their seniority recognized. So when you see a posting of a game designer or like a level designer that says principal designer, this is what it means. It means that it's usually people that, even though they have to communicate a lot, they want to still work in the engine, and they don't want to give up that part. So they give up the leadership and the peer review aspect a lot of the times to still continue and become a specialist in the engine. That is another branch that they like, that you can follow if you decide to become a game designer.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So I hope you like the video. I hope this clears confusion. I hope this, if you're gonna want to be a level designer, I hope this works. I hope you can get something out of this. Remember, this is not a class. We're not trying to teach you what every step of the way does. We just want to clear. What is it?
No, there's 1,000 tutorials. There's 1,000 classes online that are for free or very cheap that can teach you the technical aspects of level design.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we just wanted to disclose that level art and level design are
Are
two
very
different
different things.
things.
Yeah, are very different things. So remember, when you're playing Fantasia, it is a great game, but it's the set dressing that you're probably liking a lot, which is pretty
Yes.
cool. Which is pretty cool.
Never played it.
I haven't played it either. I just saw a lot of gameplay.
I got an iPhone for it, and then I never played it.
You could have gotten like an Apple TV and played it as
I know.
well.
I know.
It was less of a commitment.
I know. I committed
Well,
for
it's coming-
years to an iPhone. For people like, this is not an iPhone versus Android argument. I personally prefer Android, but I said, like, you know what? The new Hironobu Sakaguchi Fantasia game is gonna come out on Apple TV, on Apple Arcade. I'm gonna get an
That just
iPhone.
sold
I'm just gonna get an iPhone to play it, and I never did. I never did.
My God. Well, it's coming to Steam soon.
They say that, right? There's a rumor, but I don't know if it's real.
No, I'm not the biggest PC player. There's nothing wrong with people who enjoy PC. Like, since I work on a PC all day long, I don't want to be playing on a PC all the time. So I much rather play on a console. There's nothing wrong with playing on PC. It's just my personal preference.
When you work in front of a PC all day, it's hard to sit in front of a PC to enjoy and play, right? Like, there is
sorry, go ahead.
No. There is a clear distinction, like, that you have to make, and sometimes it's hard to do. It's hard to draw the line.
It's hard to play and not see it as a job, and not start seeing like, oh, well, maybe this could have been like this way. This is amazing. Or it's hard to not do that when you're playing on a PC, and I want to enjoy a game, right? So I much rather like go to a TV and just hook up my Switch and play something there. Much rather. Yeah. That's just us. But yeah, it's coming on Steam. I don't have a Steam Deck, but if you have Steam Deck, you can enjoy it there.
I do. I know you're jealous about that, but I would
love that, because I love Steam. Like, it has a lot of games. It has a lot of things I want, but I just don't have a Steam Deck. I would love a Steam Deck.
I finished
the form factor.
I finished Death Stranding on my Steam Deck, and it played great. So I do like this.
I love the form factor. I've always been a handheld guy. Like, that's why I love my Switch so much, and that's why, like, I always played a lot of DS games. Because I could just enjoy other aspects of life, such as watching a sunset while playing my DS. That's just me again. That's just me. I'm a weird guy.
That's my brother. My brother's dream is to watch a sunset while playing, like, DS. This is like
playing Zelda Phantom Hourglass. Oof.
While watching a sunset.
Yeah, look at this. Oof, what a way to enjoy sunset, man.
All right, guys. I think there is a good exercise for this episode. I think you said it before, but I think this is a great exercise to go into Mario Maker. Far Cry 5 has a level editor, if I remember correctly, or any level editor, and go in, try it out, play test it. Playtesting. We're gonna keep talking about playtesting almost every episode, but playtest it. I think it's gonna be quite fun. I think that's a great exercise for you. Let us know if you have any level that you want us to try. We'll do our best to try it. Please let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, guys, hope you share, hope you like the video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it.
We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Peace.
Oh, and she's Duna right there in the back.
Awesome sauce. Quedó bueno.
Quedó bueno, ¿no?
Sí. Nada más estoy un poco agotado, pero quedó muy bueno. Muy, muy bueno. Muy, 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 muy bueno.
Sí, la neta quedó chido, quedó chido. Sí, cabrón, no mames, veía videos de Fantasia y yo me traen hasta la puta madre, güey.
Ya me trae esta. Sí, a mí también. A mí también ya no aguanto. La neta.
Güey, es que es de la verga, güey, que es como, no mames, el level design es como, o sea, se ve bonito, güey, pero... Estuvo
Ah,
chido, estuvo chido, güey. Tengo que
déjame
decirlo.
quitarla.